It's not just online, which doesn't get a good reputation overall, to be honest, right? Like, those results don't get taken too seriously, but it feels like he's winning every big tournament online at this point.
Yes, every single tournament that is over 200 players, James is in top cut of basically every single one of them, and 99% of the time he is playing some iteration of Pidgeot control, but he will have his work cut out for him in this game. Henry Chao, the Baltimore regional champion from earlier this season, on the right side of the table, playing his signature Gardevoir EX deck. And this matchup, there's so many different levels to how this could go. It did sound like Henry wasn't excited about playing this matchup, but we'll see exactly what happens. I mean, if anyone is going to know how to navigate these sort of situations, it's Henry. You know, James isn't going to get any sort of advantage from his opponent not knowing how to play against control, which may have benefited him up to this point in the tournament.
And especially with this deeper runs, right? Like, these players have been playing next to each other at the top tables the whole day, maybe been played against each other already. Therefore, Henry might already have some information on James's deck, and yeah, this will be very interesting. Now, one of the main strategies of these Pidgeot control decks tends to be trapping things in the active, but they're not a fully fleshed out Snorlax deck of sorts, so double Ralts at the very top of the prize card, so that's not a great start.
And that Spiritomb! The Spiritomb is massive in this matchup. Fettered in Misfortune turns off the abilities of all basic Pokemon V in play, and James's deck is extremely reliant on Rotom V's instant charge to get set up. That is massive.
You cannot have put it better, Chip. That Spiritomb so key against Snorlax, against Pidgeot, against Charizard, but having it prized in your first game off top 4 can be rough. Now, we do have to mention that Pidgeot control usually doesn't win by taking prizes, right? It does have that option available to it, but it can sometimes just win through alternate win conditions. However, if Henry gets a solid and healthy prize lead, depending on the time, that could actually factor into this game.
We are kicking things off. It does look like James went first, started that Pidgey, going to certainly be looking to make a Pidgeot EX on the next turn, and is also able to find the turn 1 Rotom instant charge, instantly filling the hand by drawing 3 additional cards, kicking it back over to Henry right away with that Ralts in the active spot. A very key attack as well for Henry is going to be the fact that Ralts has teleportation burst, something he can use to pivot to the bench if any sort of stalling shenanigans. It actually really prevents James ever even going for any of the stalling shenanigans. And Henry now taking note of the prize cards, using that nest ball, searching out any basic Pokemon with the Spiritomb prized, with a pair of Ralts. He's really going to value getting down that second Ralts right away. He wants to keep a Ralts in play. He wants to get a Curly in play next turn to draw some cards and eventually establish a Gardevoir EX.
I think I'm seeing like 25 singles in this deck list, Chip. That's a lot of one copy cards here. And speaking of the trapping shenanigans that you were mentioning, there's Mowell and there's Wellspring Mask Ogre Pond EX. Both of those Pokemon can trap something like a Manaphy, something like a Radiant Greninja, and potentially give some trouble to Henry. However, Henry does play 2 copies of Professor Turo Scenario, so I think at this point that's not going to be a viable win condition for James in this particular match, which I'm sure has been in many others, but not in this one. But there is a special tech card that James... Oh no, there's no Milotic here. I was going to mention the Milotic, yep.
Yeah, the Milotic with the Mentally Calm ability is a tech we've seen pop up a lot from control players. It's something that Grant Manley was playing in his list. Mentally Calm, your opponent's Pokemon in play and all attached cards cannot be put into your opponent's hand. This is the perfect response to a Professor Turo, but James is not playing it, choosing not to go with that tech card for this matchup. We'll have to see if Henry is maybe in this early game going to keep that in mind, or as this game develops, if he's going to be worried about the potential of that Milotic.
The other Pidgeot player in asymmetrical top card, Grant Manley, was playing that Milotic, but we see that difference potentially having an impact right here. Now, we're going to see Henry get it off to a solid start. Was very thorough with his price checking, and therefore knows that there's no Ralts, There's no other routes available, so we can really only evolve one of them with that technical machine evolution. We can't get that Spiritomb. We do have the Fluttermane, which could be important, maybe.
Yeah, especially with James having that Pidgey in the active spot, but since Henry has already committed the technical machine evolution, no surprise to see that being used. Kirlia put into play. And now James's hand being reduced from the massive instant charge last turn after the Iono from Henry. What does he have? Just an Iono of his own.
All right. I mean, if you didn't know what James was playing, you'd be seeing this and you could be thinking you're up against Charizard, right? But of course, both players know very well what they are up against. And I think this game is going to be all about what is James's strategy to lock down Gardevoir? You know, what options does he have? Is it Lost CD, a potential Drifloon to then make Blood Moon or Saluna that can never be KO'd? We do see the Wellspring Ogerpon hit the board, though, and it's one of those new fancy ones from Prismatic Evolutions.
Yeah, nice new alternate artwork there, and just an instant charge to draw some more cards. His hand was not looking really good over on James's side. Henry will start off the turn with a Refinement, discarding a Buddy Buddy Poffin from the hand. This is a matchup where Henry really wants to be very mindful of the Pokemon he's putting in play.
Very mindful indeed to make sure that they cannot get trapped. I wonder if Henry knows that there's no Milotic threat at this point. Milotic was utilized by Sander, like the mastermind of the Pidgeot control decks last weekend. Now we're gonna get that Spiritomb to lock down this Rotom. No more extra cards for James.
And you can see how valuable it is in this matchup. A lot of Gardevoir players would play that Heavy Ball, see 2 prized Ralts, and instantly be like, oh, thank goodness, I can get another Ralts in play. But in this matchup, it's all about this Spiritomb limiting the setup from James. Now, something that could be pretty strong for Henry, if he can find his Gardevoir EX, we could see him with this Spiritomb in play, get into a Gardevoir EX, get enough energy in the discard pile, and just knock out this Pidgey right away and not have to worry about any sort of Pidgeot coming into play.
I think you're a Psychic-type Pokemon, just like the ones we're seeing, Chip, here, because we seem to be about to see that knockout. And with the Rotom blocked, what options does James have at this point?
Especially being Iono down to 6 cards, and there is another Psychic Energy found. I think that should be enough for Henry to now have access to retreating this active, to getting into the Gardevoir, and start swinging with Miracle Force. No, not gonna Refinement it away. Oh, are we gonna see Screamtail here?
Would see Screamtail. That is also good enough to knock out the Pidgey, right? We're gonna see the Refinement first. I think Henry was getting a little bit ahead of himself. And yeah, it seems like it's gonna be the Screamtail, which is a lot more threatening overall to anything. James taunting Henry with that Wellspring Ogerpon, which has the Terra protection, but pretty sure he's not going to choose to do 80 damage onto that.
Now over to James's side. Yeah, that might have been James being used to being able to get away with a misclick every once in a while from his opponent online. No, no IRL misclicks from Henry Chao, and this is where things are going to get really tough for James. If he had been able to establish a Pidgeot, he would probably feel okay in this position. But now he doesn't have Pidgeot, and he doesn't have access to Instant Charge, so setting up and getting a constant stream of his controlling options is going to be difficult.
Another thing he doesn't have access to at this point is he can't bench another Pidgey, right? Which is great with that Precious Trolley, but it just gets immediately sniped by the Screamtail because there's no mana fee protection at this point. So we might have to see that Force Seal Stone dedicated to a Night Stretcher, the only copy available to have to bench double Pidgey and then have a chance at one of them surviving.
We will see Precious Trolley be grabbed from the Arven, the A-spec of choice. James sang this card's praises when I interviewed him yesterday, saying how it just opened up so many possibilities for this deck. He's able to search his deck for any number of basic Pokemon and put them onto the bench. So he'll be able to fill it up if he wants to. And there are so many different possible options here, Pablo. You got any inkling of what he's going to want to go with?
I mean, it seems like we're committing to a sort of Luxray trapping strategy to get rid of resources in Henry's hand. Maybe get rid of those Professor Turos with some lucky Luxray snipes and then try to trap something with Mowell or the sub attack from this Wellspring Ogerpon EX. Now, James is committing to 4 benched Pokemon, not going for that Night Stretcher with that Force Seal Stone. That means single Pidgey, and there's nothing stopping Henry from knocking out this Pidgey right now.
James may be thinking of a future Thornton play, potentially. That's something he can piece together with the Forest Seal Stone, potentially. And we do see that double Turbo Energy being attached, and the counter catcher targeting down that Gardevoir EX. It will be a Sob. 20 damage, reduced to 0 with that double Turbo Energy, and now Henry's active Pokemon will be unable to retreat.
With no energy right now in the discard pile, this does seem like a pretty great strategy, except Henry already has that Professor Turo in his hand to take away this locked Pokemon, or potentially pick up the Screamtail, release those energies into the wild, and then reattach them into a Gardevoir to start swinging. But I definitely think if you're Henry, you're just savoring that Pidgey.
Yeah, I think picking up the Gardevoir definitely seems like the move. We'll see which route Henry goes with. Does begin this sequence with a refinement, discarding a basic Psychic Energy, drawing himself a couple more cards. He is starting to build up a pretty sizable hand here. And this play from James last turn, he's just trying to buy time, get himself an opportunity to potentially get a Pidgeot in play. But Henry is going to be able to have the response with the Professor Turo scenario.
Now, Henry being very methodical of what he's going to try to do, and I think that's very important, right? Against these sort of control decks, their win condition is to run you out of resources, find a way to lock you out of energy or ways to retreat, and then win that way. So the least amount of resources you can use, the better it will be. Now, promoting the Spiritomb, attaching the energy, possibly to just retreat, get that into a discard pile in a more natural way, and then we're going to see that Screamtail snipe that Pidgey with that roaring scream.
An extremely smart use of resources there from Henry Chao, making sure that he has enough energy cards in the discard pile to be able to utilize with Gardevoir in future turns. It is the Roaring Scream, taking down the Pidgey. No Pidgeot once again for James, unless he can piece together some sort of Thornton play. And if there's anything that can help him find it, it will be some combination of Phesandipides, flip the script, drawing 3 additional cards, and maybe a potential Thornton. Now, this could be huge here. The accompanying Flute, looking at the top 5 cards, putting any basic Pokemon that James finds onto the bench, and Manaphy is a massive hit.
That is massive, with 1 Turo down, 1 left to go, but that Manaphy could be James's win condition. So this game is really going back and forth, Chip. Now, bringing that up could be a little difficult. There's 2 counter catchers in this list. 1 has been utilized already. We can Force Seal Stone right now. For the other, we can also Boss, try to trap that immediately. Oof, this second copy of Professor Turo scenario by Henry could be so clutch.
Does have the second Turo, but does not have Pal Pad in this list, something we see from Gardevoir lists every once in a while. So if we can get a sequence of James sticking this active for a long enough time and Henry being unable to find the Turo, it will allow James to get time, to get reestablished, to Night Stretcher back a Pidgey, which we see right now. And that's just the name of the game here, establish a Pidgeot EX. Can Henry find his second copy of Turo this turn? He'll have a pair of refinements to help him dig.
It's all on Henry right now to get this Manaphy out of this lock. Now, the Professor Turo is available. The secret box can also potentially search for that Professor Turo, so decent chance to find it. I don't think you're in any rush in particular to try to find it, because James can't really pressure you in any other way, right? It has to be through this Sob. You can't all of a sudden switch into a Luxray and break this trapping lock, because then you give Henry the option and the opportunity to retreat and start taking more and more prizes. So
but what James could do is take a turn off, right?
Yeah,
Go for the Luxray, try to catch that Turo in the hand, try to Fang snipe it away, and then play for the later game of bringing this Manaphy back up.
Yeah, so Henry were to, for example, search for the secret box, use it, and put that Turo into his hand, that would be the prime opportunity. But I think Henry, a regional champion, the Gardevoir master of the universe, will not fall for that.
He does use refinement, is unable to find Turo just yet. Puts the other Kirlia into play, evolving the Ralts, has 1 more refinement to go for. Is he playing the Iono? Is he refinement the Iono?
He's playing the Iono, Chip, which is a little risky if that Professor Turo ends up in the hand And James is able to find his other copy of Double Turbo. There's only 2 in the deck. Oh, it's actually prized. Yeah, so actually, I mean, with counter game, the luxury play is still possible. But with only 3 energy, can you really afford that in the long run? That would leave 1 energy left for
He could also
sub.
penny, right? He could penny, pick up this Double Turbo energy, right? And then if it does get knocked out, right, he could Roseanne's back up, put that energy back into the deck. So he should still have some options. It's not going to be a penny play here, though. He's going for the Arven. Doesn't have a great read on his opponent's hand, and he is more than anything going to value getting Pidgeot in play. And with the Arven for the rare candy, that gives me a pretty good sign that we are indeed going to see quick search established. Now, every single turn, James is going to be able to search the deck for any one specific card and add it to his hand.
That 1 copy of Accompanying Flute was so clutch here, put Henry in so much trouble. Having at that point, hitting the Manaphy with the Greninja being in the prize cards was very fortunate, but now this Professor Tour, there were a lot of cards get put at the bottom, right? The Professor Tour is not here, therefore, we're getting closer to that, and if the Manaphy hits the hand and then gets discarded by the Kirlia, what is the option then? What do you trap?
Yeah, there's no Mantine or anything like that in the list for James, and he does have the Erica's Hospitality, or Erica's Invitation, excuse me, different Erica card, but that is actually also in the prize cards for James. That would be one way if his opponent had picked that Pokemon up, put it in the hand, boom, Erica's, bring it back down, bring it back up to the active. Another thing, though, we'll have to keep track of is how many energy does Henry put into play, because while James would like to stick the Manaphy active, if Henry spreads his energy cards a little bit too thin, even something like a Gardevoir could get stuck.
Yeah, he definitely would have liked to keep one of these Kirlias as a Ralts, right? To be able to Teleportation Blast every time you got trapped out of there. That is no longer a possibility, but Henry does play 10 total energy, so I think we're going to see some Gardevoir EXs with Darkness Energy attached, and then you can dedicate 3 here, 3 here, 2 here, that's 8, and you still have 2 left over.
Henry, off that first refinement, was able to find Secret Box, his patented Secret Box technology, a spec card of choice, which will allow him to discard 3 other cards from hand and then search his deck for a item card, a supporter card, a tool card, and a stadium card and add them to his hand. Is this the time? Are we going to see Professor Turo's scenario?
Now, if you see that from Henry, right, your opponent, sorry, from James, you see the Secret Box, you see the Turo, you see the Manaphy hit the hand and then immediately hit the discard pile, which Henry must know and be aware that he needs to play around that Erica's Invitation that you were mentioning. Do you, based on the time left, do you go next, Chip? Is that the moment where, because you probably can't win by prizes, you need to go for a locking strategy 2 games in a row? Is 1 hour enough to pull that off twice?
That is going to be the question. I think for James, you can stick it out for a little bit longer, see how Henry spreads the energy, try to mess with his board a little bit, do some counter catcher plays, some Mawile trapping, try to force his hand a bit, but it is certainly going to be tough. And that is one of the reasons that control decks can really struggle and have a hard time actually winning these regional championships. They're often very good plays. They'll often get you into top cut, but with the single elimination rules, it's different from the Swiss rounds. If a set goes 1-1 in games and we're in game 3, the player who is ahead on prize cards is awarded the win. We have to have a winner. We have to have someone advance to the finals. There are no ties in Top Cut. James has accumulated 3 ties thus far in the tournament. That will not be an option. So he may have to consider an aggressive concession. Like you said, I don't know if he needs to do it yet. I'm not sure that the writing is quite on the wall. It's not like Henry has a great way to deal with this Ogre Pawn. It's got 260 hit points thanks to Bravery Charm. So these are all things that are certainly going through James's mind in this moment.
We see the Manaphy get immediately discarded off of that refinery. We see the nice stretcher for the Gardevoir EX. Who gets evolved? That is what Henry is questioning right now. Does he have 3 psychic energies? He does. He has more than enough, and he's gonna be able to take or to do 190 and start pressuring this Ogre Pawn, which has been very annoying for now. But I think Henry would have loved to have the Darkness Energy attached here and leave more psychic energies, because if there's only 1 left, then now it's the Kirlia that could get trapped, or you can just retreat. That works.
So we will see a Psychic Embrace, 2 energy being attached to the active, retreating. Henry shortcutting a little bit, saving us all a bit of time. And now sending up the Scream Tail. Now Scream Tail could take a prize, knock out the Mawile. We also could see Scream Tail like set up for damage. Go for a 2-hit KO on the Pidgeot EX.
Yeah.
What do you think the correct play here would be?
I kind of like pressuring the Pidgeot. It's the real way that James will be able to make anything happen. And you can afford this, right? You have 3 energies here. You have 3 energies here. You have potentially another 3 onto this future Gardevoir EX, and then 1 more on the Spiritomb. That's 10 total energy. And Henry knows that he didn't prize any. So this is completely possible. And now this 120 damage onto the Pidgeot is pretty good. But the thing is, you're going to have to 3-hit KO the Pidgeot. You cannot add another energy, because that's when things could get a little trickier.
The beneficial thing here for Henry as well is the fact that Spiritomb's attack is actually pretty nice. I almost said Shuppet, because it has that iconic fade out attack where it deals 10 damage and then allows you to return that's Pokemon to your hand. So Spiritomb is something, while it only does 10 damage, is never at risk of getting stuck by a Mawile or a Teal Mask Ogerpon ES. Excuse me, a Wellspring Mask Ogerpon ES.
It's easy to confuse them. They all look very much alike, especially in their Terraform.
The card is literally green.
It's more green than blue, I agree.
We are going to see the Quick Search, and we see James's Radiant Pokemon of choice, the Radiant Serena, being eyed up. Its Elegant Heal ability allowing you to heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. Is that going to be the move here, trying to make this Pidgeot hang around as long as possible?
I mean, does that save it from getting 3-hit KO'd? It's 120, goes down to 100. Then it gets another 120 on it, goes down to 200. And then it doesn't have enough HP left. So I don't think it's going to be too relevant. Now, this is where James, could go into aggressive mode. Lost CD away this Scream Tail somehow. Or we're going to keep up with the trapping strategy.
And I think this is James trying to buy some time. He knows that now his Pidgeot is going to be able to stick around for a turn. Henry has no way to pick up this Gardevoir EX. His only option is going to be to load it up and attack with it. And if he loads it up and attacks with it, that means that James will have another turn of Elegant Heal, another opportunity to heal this Pidgeot EX, and then he'll have an opportunity to start getting the Penny Loop going. Gardevoir caps out at 190 damage, so if James can Penny over and over and over again, Gardevoir will never be able to KO this active.
That is very true, Chip. Now, can you do that for 10 turns in a row, though? You have 2 pennies, you have 2 Palpads, you have... I'm not seeing Silene. I'm not seeing...
No Silene.
I'm not seeing... I mean, there's so many one-offs I might be missing.
Cheer.
It. I'm not seeing Team Yell's Cheer or Silene. I think we're a little too used to Snorlax, but I don't see those cards here.
Okay, so it's actually not going to be infinite resources here for James.
Yeah.
No way to continually cycle the supporter cards over and over again. He can Palpad. I think he's got a Palpad in this list, right?
Well, I was thinking Regieleki with Heroescape, but that's not the ace spec of choice. So yeah, I'm trying to see if there's a way to make this infinite, but maybe there isn't.
And it might just be James here trying to buy some time, reestablish something else, force Henry to spread the energy cards out like we mentioned, and then he'll try to trap something else active, right? Bring up the Curlia, force Henry to put all those energy cards there, and then see if there's something else, some other way he can bring some other Pokemon up.
Yep. It's all about how many energy did Henry prize at this point for James, which of course he doesn't know. Henry didn't prize any energy at all. He's trying to force those energy onto the board and then find a way to trap something in the active that can no longer threaten him at all.
Of course, we could also see James eventually go into the Blood Moon Ursaluna as an attacker. It's Blood Moon attack, dealing a ton of damage and also having a lot of HP, especially if you put a Bravery Charm on that Pokemon.
Yep.
We are going to see Elegant Heal, 20 damage healed from that Pidgeot, and also the active Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX. Does look like James has the penny in hand. He's going to start with the Quick Search, searching the deck for any card, adding it to the hand.
Henry has only taken 2 prizes so far, so the Blood Moon is not quite available to start dishing out damage just yet. Seems like we're going to see the Regieleki and then get back a resource, and then that gets taken out, and then the Blood Moon or Saluna could actually make something happen here.
And Nestball will search the deck for any basic Pokemon, and sure enough, Regieleki will be put down with its electromagnetic sonar attack, allowing you to put a trainer card from your discard pile back into your hand.
Not a bad attack to have at your disposal when you have all these important resources. We're also going to dedicate the counter gain to that Regieleki, essentially doing it for free. So what does James grab back? It's going to be the flute. Interesting.
Yeah, I think James is recognizing the situation. Henry's got 3 energy on this Screamtail, 3 energy on the active Gardevoir. He can put 3 energy on the Kirlia and make that a Gardevoir to start attacking. Spiritomb can't really get trapped. As long as you keep an energy around, you can always fade out.
It leaves 1 energy available.
But if James can find something else, put another Pokemon in play, Monkey Dory, Drifloon, Fluttermane, so many things that I think James would be fine to put down. Radiant Greninja would be the best one, but we do know that it is in Henry's prize cards, which I think Henry is actually probably thankful for. A rare thing that the Gardevoir player is thankful for their Radiant Greninja to be prized. But yeah, James, I think, is just going to be looking for something else to stick into play.
All right, so Ralts is available. Mowell is also available. Drifloon is also available. Seems like Henry is going to choose to purposely put that Ralts into play, reducing the odds that the flute hits something. But there are 3 basic Pokemon, and Henry's deck is not very big at this point in time.
And this still works out just fine for now. If James ever sticks the Spiritomb active, you can, of course, use Fade Out. And then you have 3 energy to put on the one Kirlia, 1 Psychic energy to put on the other Ralts. You can Teleportation Burst to always be able to move it back to the bench.
Then the Spiritomb gets trapped, right?
I'm assuming, yeah, Spiritomb has to get faded out at some point in this sequence.
And this would be the perfect opportunity, actually. You retreat this Gardevoir, get 2 more energies here, then you fade out, but that also gives James a free electromagnetic sonar again.
That's right.
If he wishes, which
you
could play the flute and then play it again, right?
And then it also clears another bench spot for the potential of James sticking more than 1 basic Pokemon in play from the accompanying flutes.
So I have to wonder, was this 3rd energy a potential mishap chip? That extra damage really did nothing, right, against the Pidgeot. Didn't apply enough pressure, I want to say. And if Screamtail had 2 energies there, then even if a Drifloon or a Monkey Dory gets put into play, you still get to attack. You still get to apply some sort of pressure with them.
Refinement was used, a couple of cards being drawn. Still some supporter options here. There's Iono. There's actually Irida in this list as well, but it will be Arven as the choice. Searching the deck for an item card and a Pokemon tool. Just thinning a few things out. Will grab the Bravery Charm. One kind of cool play you can do with this deck is put a Bravery Charm on a Ralts, put 4 Psychic Energy on it, putting it up to 80 damage, and then evolving it into a Kirlia so it gets KO'd. Normally that would be a very bad thing, KOing your own Pokemon, but it could be a way to move a Pokemon out of the active spot that Henry might have had stuck otherwise.
And will you ever have 4 energy available in your discard pile with how James is playing this out? Doesn't seem very likely. We're going to see a Screamtail. Going to try and snipe something perhaps. We're going to see a snipe on the Pidgeot maybe, just fully committing all those energies.
It's going to be a 200 damage attack that lines up exact math to KO Pidgeot here with 80 damage on it currently.
If you could Iono here, this would be a lot stronger. But yeah, Pidgeot's going to go down. Henry might just be trying to go boss KO for the win at some point here. That's a lot of energies committed, and now something can definitely get trapped.
Also, this Regieleki is going to be difficult to get out of the active spot now for James, so the fact that it did not go down is probably something, even though James will have constant access to electromagnetic sonar, is not too bad. Let's see what's going to happen here with this Hisuian Heavy Ball. Looking at the prize cards, there are no basic Pokemon to take, so that is going to be a fail. And Henry is really putting James on a clock here.
Yeah.
At this point, there's a lot of energy locked up into play. There are no more Professor Turo's scenario, so it's going to be a race. Can James find a way to stick something active, run Henry out of resources, or does Henry have just enough available still to find a way to take the last 2 prizes?
The second copy of Counter Catcher is in the prize cards. One has already been exhausted, so I don't think James can do Penny to retreat plus Counter Catcher, trap something in the active spot, and if it doesn't happen this turn, it's not happening ever again, because that Luxray is gonna get sniped by that Screamtail.
There are 2 Pokemon hit here from the accompanying flute. James had his choice there of the Drifloon or the Mawile. Thinks of the Mawile now, putting that into play. I didn't expect we would see a Mawile from both players.
A Mawile mirror match, yeah.
A Mawile mirror match, each player having Mawile at some point this weekend, but I guess it's not too surprising considering both these decks are so strong.
I generally think James needs to scoop it up. I mean, he must be thinking of something, but
he does have
every second that goes by.
He's got Latias, so that's how he could get this Regieleki out of the active spot. But so he could Latias plus Boss plus Mawile, stick something active, right?
Yeah, but there's no boss, right? So if you know that, then you need to move on to the next scheme. You knock out this Screamtail, you get the Counter Catcher potentially out of the prizes, but what happens after? You free up all those energies to be spread around all of these Pokemon, so then your trapping strategy goes away. So with the clock dwindling down, I don't see an opening. Obviously, James is the expert here, right? Like, there's no denying that he's possibly only rivaled by Sander as the best Pidgeot control player ever, but I'm just not seeing it here.
He will use Lost Vacuum, does get rid of his own Genesect, sending the Bravery Charm, and then also the Screamtail to the Lost Zone, thanks to the Lost City that is in play. Henry now having to choose what to promote. It will be the Gardevoir EX, sent to the active position.
Yep, that Pokemon is like, okay, you want to trap that? It's just going to smack you for 190 damage. We're going to see a technical Machine Devolution play, though, trying to get another prize card, trying to get that Counter Catcher, but it's not going to be off the prizes. That's okay. Maybe something can happen here. By getting that Kirlia up into hand and Henry not having rare candy at all, there's no attack possible from Henry this upcoming turn. Could James now turn this around with Blood Moon, Iono, Double Turbo, or Energy attach and start swinging and win the prize race, Chip?
That might be what he's going for. It might be his only chance. He's guaranteed to not lose a prize card here, like you mentioned. Henry not playing that rare candy that he did become quite known for after the Baltimore Regional Championships. The Gardevoir list has changed, adapted, and grown since that event. Henry does immediately put both Kirlia into play, so a few refinement are available, trying to mitigate any of the risk that could come alongside any sort of Iono plays from James.
Thinking about putting those Darkness energy back into the deck as well with the Suprod. It's now a good time for Henry to just Iono away James's huge hand and make it even more difficult to pull anything off next turn, as since James did take 2 prizes now, he would only be getting 4 cards instead of the usual 6 for this deck.
And something else Henry could be considering here is the fact that we have yet to see one of the most annoying supporters in the format be played by James, Eerie. Now, Eerie has been hanging out in the prize cards this entire game, but James did take it last turn after one of those KOs. Henry has Super Rod in his hand, so that's why he's debating, do I play it or do I leave it in my hand? He cannot feel safe leaving that resource around knowing Eerie has not yet been utilized. The larger Henry's hand gets, the more likely it is for James to hit something really strong off of that disruption support.
Iono. All right, so Gardevoir does go to the bottom of the deck, Chip, so maybe getting that back could be a little problematic. Henry does only get 2 cards, but I guess with Double Refinement this turn and Double Refinement next turn, we might be okay.
Refinement number 1, discards a Kirlia. Refinement number 2, going to get rid of Drifloon. 2 cards now being found. Boss's Orders, a bunch of Darkness Energy, a Night Stretcher as well, and just a pass. James buying a turn effectively. What is he going to do with this gift?
Does he have access to Boss's Orders? I mean, at this point, in an ideal world, James could get 3 energies here, 3 energies, then 2 and 2. That's all 10, and then maybe he could trap something, but does he have enough time?
I think Henry may actually just have game next turn. I think there's a Gardevoir EX in the discard pile. Is there? Oh, I didn't quite get a good look. But if there's a Gardevoir EX in the discard pile, he's got Night Stretcher in hand and Boss's Orders. With that Monkey Dory established, he would be able to Boss's Orders up the Fezandipity, move the damage counters from the Gardevoir onto Fezandipity, and take a one-hit KO with the Miracle Force. Let's see. All he's missing now is Gardevoir, and he finds it. Boss's Orders. Gardevoir bringing up one of those 2 prize Pokemon. Adrenabrain moves the extra damage. Henry Chao takes a one-hit KO and goes up 1-0 in top 4.
Yep, could have been the Luxray, could have been the Latias, could have been Fezandipity. Henry is getting closer to sending an invite to the Lost Zone chip.
That is so true, yeah, because Henry Chao has already locked up his Worlds invite from his Regionals win earlier on in this season.
I'd like to call
Blitzel
dibs on his Worlds competitor bag.
All-out Blitzel on the left side of the table finds himself now down a game in top cut. This is not the position you want to find yourself in as a control player. Are we going to need to see him change his strategy? It is possible for his deck to take 6 prize cards. Let's replay this last game, and then we'll talk about some of his strategies moving forward.
Yeah, we did see that slow-ish start. The Pidgeot did get KO'd quite quickly. And then his Rotom was locked down. His next Pidgey was taken down. It seemed like Fezandipity was carrying the whole game. And then all of a sudden, that accompanying Flood hitting the Manaphy was pretty good for James.
An absolutely massive hit. Yeah, the water Pokemon are the last thing that Henry wants to see in this matchup. Manaphy and the Radiant Greninja, both things he wants to avoid seeing hit the board at any point ever. James lucky to hit one. It bought him some time. And then this other turn here with the Technical Machine Devolution. Speaking of things that bought James some time, that really was pretty nice.
Yep, that was a very cool play. Delayed Henry by a turn. Now, I'm thinking with the rules of Top Cut, right? Was hitting that Manaphy a curse in disguise? Because that gave James hope. And that led to this game 1 extending. But then ultimately now with 40 minutes or less on the clock, 40 minutes exactly, then is that enough to deck out Henry twice? I generally don't think so.
And it might be a situation of James decking Henry out in this game and then being the aggressor in game 3. Try to just get a turn 2 Pidgeot attack off, you know? Take a prize cards. It doesn't matter how many you take. It doesn't matter what the board position is. You just have to have taken more prize cards than your opponent when time is called, or after +3 turns, I should say, in top cut. Now, Henry Chao, looking at the prize cards here, he's prized a Boss's Orders. He's prized Secret Box, Iono as well. A couple of kind of awkward things, the biggest one certainly being Secret Box.
Secret Box no longer available to search for that Professor Turos, which was so clutch. The Boss's Orders, of course, won Henry the game. As long as he doesn't play that Hisuian Heavy Ball, though, they are at the very bottom. So very accessible overall. And now Spiritomb is not prized. James did start that Rotom V, which will be pretty useless, right, at this point in time. So Henry in a pretty commanding spot at this point. Just checking for those Professor Turos, bringing them to the front, make sure he's aware that both of them are available in case any trapping shenanigans happen early on.
An interesting factor here is that James did choose to go second. Now, I can understand the thought process of wanting to increase your chances to find the precious trolley turn 1 of the game, but you almost guarantee yourself you're not going to be able to Rotom in a game that you go second, because it is so easy for Henry Chao, for the Gardevoir player, to put Spiritomb in play turn 1. It's only got 60 HP. You can get it with Buddy Puffin, Artisan, Nest Ball, so many ways to put this Pokemon out, and it totally shuts down James's setup engine.
Yep, you are right, Chip. That Spiritomb hitting the board immediately. It might even be a higher priority than a Ralts at this point.
Yeah. Here's the Nest Ball from James, checking through the prizes, and oh no, Precious Trolley unavailable. Also Palpad, also Misfortune Sisters, and then also the Wellspring Mask Ogre Pontiacs.
All out Blitzel, running out of Blitzel here, because Yeah, it's just going to be really hard to get that burst on the board, get all your disrupting and trapping Pokemon all out at once. Without Rotom setting up, the Pidgeot is going to be quite complicated as well. I mean, the hand wasn't looking good at all anyways. There's no supporter, I don't think, there. There's a bunch of supporting Pokemon. And that's where Rotom shines, right? But with that Spiritomb locking this Rotom down, it's going to be really difficult to make anything happen.
Now, I do think I saw an Ultra Ball in James' hand, so if this Pidgey hangs on, doesn't go down, and he can find a rare candy, find an Arven, we could see Quick Search Pidgeot still be established on the next turn. A simple pass back over to Henry Chao after James is only able to play one single card. Now Henry will get aggressive here with the Monkey Dory, put some damage in play, and confuse. No supporter from Henry either. What is the draw for James? Does he find a way to get Pidgeot out?
Nope, it was a Thornton, not quite good enough. This is where James wishes he was playing a Pidgeotto to evolve into Pidgey, something along those lines. But yeah, I don't think there's much to be done in terms of setup or disruption. You can see that Ultra Ball, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, and a supporter I couldn't quite catch does hit the discard. Thornton perhaps. We are going to see the Pidgeot, so now we have 6 outs. 4 Arven and 2 rare candy to hopefully get us going.
Playing to your outs here is James Kowalski, adding the Pidgeot to his hand, increasing his chances to top deck something on the next turn that can get him out of this position, but I think it will likely be a meager pass back over to the other side. Now, what does Henry Chao have? This is the Radiant Greninja.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to put that in play. He's going to do it, though.
His hand was 3 energies, and Gardevoir EX gets another Kirlia. I mean, he recognizes that James's hand is pretty bad, so going Turbo, I think, makes sense. You have the 2 Professor Turos, right? So you can afford to have this happen. 60 damage is not a lot of damage, though, Chip.
Not a lot of damage, but this will set up for a Gardevoir attack next turn. And when your opponent is drawing the way that James is drawing, you've got to do whatever you can. But what a top deck there from James. Iono is found. Perhaps this is what James needs to get back into it.
That Pidgeot will go to the bottom of the deck, and the other one is hiding in the prize card. So establishing Pidgeot is going to be pretty difficult. We cannot Precious Trolley for a bunch of disrupting Pokemon, but a huge sigh of relief from James. 6 fresh new cards. Let's see what we can make happen.
There's a rare candy. There is an Arven. So next turn, we could see Pidgeot up and running. There is Pheasantipity as well, debating if that is worth putting into play right now. We also see that Black Curum EX, a tech for that Regidrago matchup. Not going to be useful right here. Passing back over to Henry. Concealed cards. Gets rid of a Psychic Energy, excuse me. Drawing 2 more. Hisuian Heavy Ball now can be played. Looking at those face-down prize cards, any basic Pokemon there can be swapped with that Hisuian Heavy Ball, but there are no basics, so we'll just get a nice little prize check. Henry making sure he knows exactly what resources he does not have available.
Now that secret box, but more importantly, the boss's orders does get shuffled, so it'll be interesting to see where it ends up, because it was going to be very accessible, but now it's going to be at the very bottom, though. Henry does have a Gardevoir EX available, can go on the aggression, can take this Rotom down, or if he finds Screamtail, which I'm pretty sure he has access to, he can snipe the Pidgey, denying the Pidgeot.
Still has Refinement available, able to discard a card from hand to draw 2 more. Is he able to find the Screamtail? There is that Nest Ball. Using the coin here to signify that he has used that ability. Looks like Professor Turo's scenario has also hit the hand. We've talked about how that is a very important piece of this matchup. And while we are getting through our top 4 game here on the stream, there is another top 4 game happening out on the floor, and we can give an update for that match. Callie White up against Alex Szymanski, and we're going to a game 3 out there in the 4. Of course, Callie on an incredible run of tournaments after a 2nd place finish in Toronto, looking to make back-to-back final matches, which would be incredibly impressive. But will Alex Szymanski on his birthday weekend be able to stop that run? They're going to game 3 in that Terapagos mirror. Of course, Alex on the Palkia build. Now Henry using Earthen Vessel, discarding a counter catcher, not a card that is going to be very useful in this specific matchup, and finding a basic Darkness Energy and a basic Psychic Energy, adding them to hand.
Henry chose to establish this Ralts instead of the Screamtail, so he clearly has a different idea. Seems like we're going double Monkey Dory, KO this Rotom with Adrenabrain, and then wait to see what James promotes. Will it be the Pheasant?
I think he's using double Adrenabrain to KO the Pidgey here.
You're right.
Yeah,
My
60
bad.
HP. Get rid of Pidgey, get rid of the Rotom, and this is game on board unless James has another Pokemon. We'll start with the Flip the Script, drawing 3 more cards. Does find the Mimikyu, Ultra Ball, Roseanne's backup. This is where it does feel like the wind is beginning to fall out of James' sail here.
There's a Black Kyurem EX in the hand, which is as good as a paperweight at this point in time. There's no Dragon Pokemon to paralyze. Does have an Ultra Ball, does have the Defiance Vest, which would protect this Pheasantipity from getting knocked out, I do believe.
60 damage can be put on it from a pair of Adrenabrain, but Henry does have to be mindful of how he spreads the energy into play.
Yep, so, I mean, James can definitely survive and keep on playing, right? But he's not getting anywhere near close to winning this game. And he needs to win 2 games before time runs out to turn things around. And it's not even looking good in this particular game. You can double turbo, counter gain, snipe with Pheasantipity, I guess.
Yeah,
that's a fun
sure.
one. But you can't even snipe a Monkey Dory.
You take out a Ralts.
Take out a Ralts.
80 damage, Cruel Arrow.
Yep.
I don't think we're going to see that.
Don't think so, but it's a cool option, right?
It is an option. It is on the table, technically. Off this Arvin, that counter gain could be found as the tool card from that piece. Those pair of rare candy in James's hand, not useful now that the Pidgey has gone down. Counter catcher seems like definitely one piece that he should grab.
Taking a long time to make this decision. Forest Seal Stone, counter gain, counter catcher. So many cards being brought to the forefront of the deck, but now fully committing to the Nest Ball and the counter gain. I don't know if there's any energy in hand to potentially retreat, so we need the Latias to retreat, but then what are we attaching the counter gain to?
Is the Regieleki possibly in the hand? No, I don't see that.
Oh, there's a Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, all right, so we can go grab the Regieleki, and then what do we grab back?
Some way to get Pidgey, maybe. Establishing Pidgey seems pretty important at some point. Could get back the Thornton to bring back the Pidgey. That's a piece that's already hit the discard pile as well earlier this game. Does have the counter gain like we mentioned. He will retreat. But with the grab of Nest Ball to get Latias, was not able to get the counter catcher. So he just knows that this Regieleki is going to get KO'd.
Right. There's no way for Henry to win in this particular turn, but now the boss is actually still in the prize cards. It is the next prize card that could possibly be drawn this upcoming turn, and that would put Henry very close to winning this game.
Drawing with Refinement, drawing with concealed cards. A pair of Professor Turo currently in Henry's hand. That is really going to limit James's comeback potential here. Henry will go with the Iono, putting back the card that James was able to grab from Electromagnetic Sonar, just putting it back to the bottom of the deck.
Yep.
Ensuring it's something that he won't have access to next turn.
Yeah, whatever you were planning, now it's no longer available as we see that Miracle Force take the knockout, putting Henry 1 turn away, and with Boss's Orders in hand chip to potentially knock out Latias to win this game.
This could be a writing on the wall type of situation. I think that James' only win condition here is like counter catcher up Greninja, trap it active with Sob, and hope your opponent prized both copies of Professor Turo's scenario. That might literally be the win condition.
That might be the only chance that James has at this point. Does he have an energy? He does have the energy, does have the Sob Wellspring Ogre Pontiacs now.
I don't think he has a way to gust, though.
Yeah, no counter catcher. We can't Luminion for a boss because there's not even a Luminion in the deck. And even if there were, that Spiritomb would block it. So, I mean, James hasn't scooped, right? So there's always something that he's doing. He just Ultra Walled away the Pidgey, though.
He did just get rid of the Pidgey. I think he recognizes his way to establish a Pidgey is going to be through Thornton, and I think this is a smart use of Ultra Ball here because he knows Thornton and Rare Candy were both on the bottom of the deck from the Iono. So using Ultra Ball before using his Phesandipides flip the script. And now it will be the flip the script. This is going to be a big 3 cards here for James to try to find a way back into this game. 1, 2, and 3. 2 bosses orders will lead to something being stuck active.
Yeah.
Maybe James can buy just a turn at least. We, of course, know that Henry doesn't have both Professor Turo prized, but it could, and that might not be exactly what James is playing to, but he's at least trying for now. He's got to do something.
Now the Iono did put both of those cards at the bottom of the deck, so we know this Kirlia will not be finding any of them. Henry needs to shuffle that deck as soon as possible and then find those Professor Turos or the secret box in order to get them and get even closer to winning this match.
Henry successfully buys a turn. There's a Rare Candy. Pidgeot's in hand, yet no Pidgey able to be found. James simply using Sob once again. And now back to Henry's turn. Here comes Refinement, drawing 2, looking simply for a Professor Turo scenario. Doesn't find it yet again.
Sob back and forth. We're going to see another Refinement. It's just a waiting game.
These turns going quickly here. Maybe James is starting to get a little bit of hope. Did my opponent actually prize both Professor Turo's scenario? Henry still has not found one.
There's the secret box, but we did just play Arven, so we can't quite Turo just yet. It will be game next turn.
Eerie from James? No, it's the Arven on the top. Would have been a way that James could have at least delayed it a little bit longer, getting rid of a secret box.
Genesect will block that secret box from getting played, though. That's a funny one. Is there a nest ball, though, to even find the Genesect? Or an Ultra Ball?
Is there a tool card as well? It's going to have to be for Steelstone, maybe? No, there actually isn't a nest ball. No way to get the Genesect.
And no Ultra Ball either. Is there an Artisan in hand? No, there's no Artisan in the deck. Never mind. That was Henry's last game.
Yeah, so no Genesect available. We know it probably would have just slowed down this game. It wouldn't have been a game-winning play.
We see the Sob. Are both Professor Turos prized? James is going to find out the hard way that they are not. Henry not committing just yet. It is technically...
He can't...
Is it game? There's a Turo.
Needs Turo, but there's 260 HP on this Wellspring Mask, so he can't quite win this turn. He can pick up this Greninja. Could he get Drifloon? Is there enough energy? I think he could Drifloon. He could retreat the Gardevoir, right? Yeah. So it's going to be close here.
Are there, I'm pretty sure he should be able to. I couldn't tell how many energies.
Needs the Night Stretcher to get back the Drifloon, which hit the discard pile earlier in this game. Professor Turo scenario promoting the Gardevoir EX. Night Stretcher brings back the Drifloon, whose Balloon Burst attack deals 30 damage for each damage counter on that Pokemon. Bravery Charm boosting its HP, and tons of energy cards now will rain down on this Drifloon. One hit KOing the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, and Henry Chao finds himself in yet another finals match.
Henry Chao moving on to the final. What a game we just saw. James, it felt like he was never in control with this Pidgeot control deck at this point. We saw very few turns of Quick Search. We saw very few turns in this game, especially of any sort of pressure being applied to Henry. He even had the luxury to bench Greninja on purpose in order to just get so far ahead that it was impossible for James to catch up.
And we've gotten word from the floor, Alex Szymanski has won 2-1 over Callie White. So we have our final match set. Henry Chao versus Alex Szymanski.